So listen, I was saying earlier that bad stories about Bill 96 seem to be piling up, and I think the same can now be said about the new REM line. So residents in Griffintown say it sounds like an airplane approaching and departing. So you imagine that landing, that roar that it makes, and then take off as again it roars every single time it passes by. So tests ramped up late last month. Those trains have been rolling on their regular schedule of 20 hours per day, 20 hours a day. So that means the only time those trains are not running is between 1 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. As you can imagine, people are losing sleep over this, and they want something to be done about it. Craig SAUVÉ is City Councillor in the Sud-Ouest, member of Projet Montréal, and he agrees the noise level is far too high. He joins us now. Thanks so much for your time today, Craig.
Hi, Natasha.
Yeah, nice to talk to you again. It's been a while.
You too.
Have you heard these? I have not actually heard the sound myself, so I described it from what I've read about it. Have you heard it yourself, Craig?
Absolutely. Well, I'm always out and about in the district, of course, and you can hear from many different angles. Indeed, sound is a tough thing to work with because it can ricochet and bounce. From different angles, you may hear it louder or softer. The environment around it is important too. So people in Griffintown and Point St. Charles and Nuns Island as well are having issues because there's this new sound that's come into the environment. And it's sometimes, you're having a conversation, you have to stop because the noise is too loud. But from other parts, it's less loud. So it really depends. But I think I really want, and I think most Montrealers want, the REM's new service of mass transit to be a good news story. I mean, we're getting like 26 new metro stations in one shot. And so I think that the CDPQ Infra, the group that runs this, really has to nip this in the bud and get back to the citizens and let them know how exactly they're going to be able to diminish the sound, because as we know, studies have shown that certain high levels of decibels of sound can provoke sleep loss, stress, even cardiovascular issues. So it has real health effects. And we want the next implementations of mass transit stations that are going to come along the REM and new other projects to be really welcomed, happily by the neighbors that are going to receive them. So I think this is something that they're going to have to get onto really quickly. We have heard some good news from Monsieur Arbeau saying that they are going to do perhaps some sound walls have been ordered and some other modifications might be done. But I think the communications is going to have to be a little bit more clear, because I don't blame the citizens that are near the REM for being worried, because they're already sort of tasting this and they're losing sleep and they're getting stressed out at work or at school. And that's real. We can't ignore that.
And it's the unanticipated level of it. I think that residents were kind of bracing themselves. Okay, it's going to be a little disruptive from time to time, but I think that no one had really banked on it being this disruptive. How many complaints would you say that you've received so far, Craig?
Oh, I mean, tons here. And I got to say, too, our local member of the National Assembly, who has been on this file and out front on this file, has received a number as well. That's Guillaume Clichy-Rivard, because the noise complaints will have to be treated in terms of regulations by the provincial government, because indeed it is the provincial government that has given the powers and the financing a lot to this project to make it happen. And so the project will have to fall under their regulations. So the Minister of the Environment of Quebec is sort of responsible for making sure that the decibel levels are within the realm of healthy for our community. But in that regard, locally, we're hearing the citizens, we're meeting them, and we're trying to, lobby in favor of results quickly and communication of the results.
I'm wondering how we ended up here, how that there wasn't, how could they not foresee how loud these things were going to be? And again, I think that's probably the biggest dismay of residents, right? Is that you expect, okay, it might be a little disruptive, but it's so high that it's unacceptable for so many people. And now it's in sort of, I feel like we could have done something preventative rather than, trying to repair a situation. So how did we end up here, Craig?
I guess there were estimates early on about what the noise might be like, and they decided to do some, more testing along as the project's been going on. And some of the part of the project has changed. I mean, initially, the line that was to go from Point St. Charles in through Griffintown was going to go underground. So that was the first project that actually passed the environmental assessment. Mm-hmm. Since then, I'm assuming for cost reasons, it goes above ground. And that's something, we're trying to make, I guess, the CDPQ, because they have to derive a profit from this program. It is a profit-making enterprise, not like the STM that is subsidized. They had to, I guess, go for a model that would cost less, and tunneling costs more. But this is the other side of that coin, right? If it's underground, we don't hear it. If it's above ground, we do hear it. So there's going to have to be those modifications coming, because it's affecting the lives of the people of Point St. Charles, Griffintown, and Nuns Island.
I read in the Gazette that you said, it makes no sense really that these are so loud when they have those electric motors, and you haven't had any complaints, or hardly any complaints, about Via Rail or EXO trains. Is that just because we're used to those somehow?
I mean, I wonder. This is a new sound indeed. There are a lot of other sounds that I think are bothersome to people. When I think of people with modified mufflers on their cars to make the big vroom vroom sound, or motorcycles, they're less frequent, of course. They don't come every 2 to 5 minutes, right? So it's a different story. And I think when we thought of electric trains, we envisioned it really smooth and quiet. But it is major, it's a major infrastructure. Mm-hmm. There are these train wagons that are passing, and there is some friction, so it's going to make noise. And I wonder too if the frequency, the actual pitch of the noise, because it's more of a sort of a medium treble pitch rather than a bassy low pitch, which can also affect you, that the Via or the freight trains make. I wonder if that has a difference. Again, sound is a complex thing to attack.
Sure it is. And so the way that we're hearing that this may be dealt with is by putting in some sort of sound walls or something to make, is that like, what are you hearing back from them so far in terms of what might be done to fix this?
Well, I've heard what the public has heard,
right.
And that they've ordered some form of like sound barriers. They're talking about some form of, I guess, reducing friction materials for the rails. I think this communication is going to be absolutely key. We want the REM to be a success. We want all mass transit projects to be a success, but the citizens are worried, and we can understand why. It's changing their lives right now in a way they didn't expect.
I want you to know that texts are coming in like crazy as we're talking about this, Craig. People saying, I was in Costco and I could hear the train pass from inside. Can you imagine living beside that? Other people saying, I'm not necessarily losing sleep, but my neighborhood went from an absolutely quiet place to be with one with constant noise. And just they're coming in like crazy. Someone driving on the Champlain where it's already incredibly noisy and they still hear it, and it's definitely above 90 decibels. So I'm glad that you're on it. I'm glad that we're talking about it, and hopefully something will come of all this. Thanks so much for your time, Craig.
Thanks so much, Natasha.